Greetings from my backyard in San Diego. It's been a long time since I've connected with those of you that are on our newsletter, and for some of you, the first time I'm connecting with you. I wanted to send you a message I felt inspired to share with you in the beginning of this year, 2021. And on the day that I woke up, it was January 6th. It happened to be the same day that the events happened at the Capitol. I woke up at 3:33 in the morning and was just really overwhelmed with a fluster of different thoughts and questions from, how would our faith be tested during this upcoming year? What would the long-term effects of the vaccination be? What sort of changes and what sort of challenges would we see as we face 2021? And just as I was thinking through all of these thoughts and concerns, a gentle little remembrance from the day before came to my heart, and that was of my friend's 7-month-old baby. Her name's Phoebe. And Phoebe had reached out her little hand and reached toward my face and smiled at me the day before, and I just felt like she was looking into my soul and warming my heart. And another friend who was there said, God's using her right now to give you peace and to give you love. And I just felt like I wanted to share that because I felt like that moment wasn't for me. It was for all of us. That God, who is, the powerful creator that created all of this beauty around us, is also the gentle lover of our hearts, and loves us so much with this gentle intimacy of a baby, of an infant. And we know that because he came to us at Christmas in a little stable. And so that was a reminder that I wanted to share with you. But the cool thing about it is that he's not only this powerful God who's also gentle, that wants to walk with us, but that he literally, for those that are baptized, he literally dwells in us. And so he dwells in us, he walks with us for one purpose, and that purpose is to love us, because he loves us and wants us to love one another. So that, in part, is what inspired me to talk with you today, and also to write a few words of encouragement. And so on that same day that I had woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning, oftentimes, many of you may feel this, that when you're at your weakest, that God's the strongest, and I felt his spirit working to give a message of hope, and that hope was also a bit of a battle cry. Some of you may know that I'm a former naval officer, and so as the daughter of Mary, Star of the Sea, and as a former naval officer, I felt the message that I wanted to give was, don't give up the ship. And that message, don't give up the ship, is a lot of times it's known, it was made famous by John Paul Jones in the Revolutionary War, when he won a decisive battle that helped boost the morale of the American revolutionaries and ultimately win freedom from England. But the interesting thing about it is that it wasn't that victory that those words came from. That the flag that had those words were flown above the ship that John Paul Jones commanded. But those words were first spoken by Captain Lawrence, who was a colleague and a friend of John Paul Jones. And he said those words as he was fatally wounded. He was below decks, and he was fatally wounded. He said those words to his sailors as his ship was being taken over. So the battle was lost that day. The man who said those words died, but the victory was ultimately won. And so for me, that just was an encouragement to think about that when we are in our lowest moments, when we feel defeated, when we feel alone, when we feel that all is lost, and specifically in our spiritual life. So, you know, I'm giving the example of something that was in this world, was a battle, was, you know, temporal, but let's talk about it from a spiritual perspective, because I feel like that reality of the apparent defeat, battling on despite apparent defeat, is something that I've seen repeat itself so many times in the spiritual life, and particularly in the lives of the saints. And just around the same time when I was feeling inspired with this message, we had 3 awesome saints to point to. Well, 2 awesome saints, and then one that is the patron saint of the Goretti group. So the first was Mother Ann Seton. And some of you may know her story, but she herself had seen a lot of hardship. When she was a young mother, she lost her husband. They were rather wealthy, but he lost his entire business, and then from that, he got sick and died. And she was able to battle on as a mother of 5 and a widow, and in the midst of that, felt a call to become Catholic. So when she became Catholic, her family disowned her. She tried to start a school to take care of her family. That failed. And so there's one sort of failure after another and hardship, but despite that, she continued on to answer the call that God was putting in her heart, step by step, moment by moment. And ultimately, she became responsible for founding an order that was also kind of gave the blueprints for Catholic education. So despite hardships, she fought on, and as a result of the grace that God worked through her and her hardships and her cross and her fidelity, that many people know the love of God through Catholic education today. The second person was Saint Andre Bessette, who almost died when he was born initially. He was sick all of his life, rejected initially by the order that he eventually was admitted to. And then, I love this, he felt called to found a church, an oratory, to honor St. Joseph. And he built the foundation for this by cutting 4,000 heads of hair at 5 cents a head. So he cut hair little by little. He gave what he could cut hair, to build the foundation that God would work through to later, I read, build this St. Joseph's Oratory, which I visited years ago, that is peppered with crutches from people who attribute their healing to him, his intercessory, and to that of St. Joseph. And finally, St. Maria Goretti, who lost her father at a very young age, and she became the little mother of her household during this time with great optimism. And ultimately, because of her fidelity, her fighting through the hardship, battling through, not giving up the ship, she too was able to allow God's grace to work through her to the conversion of her aggressor, and also to hundreds, I would say probably tens of thousands of more people who have received God's mercy through her story, and have worked to defend purity battle for purity within themselves and within culture. So I want to repeat to you, my friends, do not give up the ship. Don't give up the ship. I want to reach out to those who minister, to mothers, fathers, friends, to priests, to bishops. I want to say to you, thank you for the many sacrifices that you make that no one ever sees, that God knows. And I want to ask God, I pray to God that He will renew you in your strength, and that He will give you, continue to lend to you His heart, His sacred heart, which was moved out of pity for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So I thank you for your sacrifices, and I encourage you to not give up the ship. I want to address all of you who are living in fear, are battling with fear of many different kinds, those that are lonely, those that are fighting addictions, those that are fighting lust, those that are feeling alone, those that are fighting despair, division, all of those things that bring us down. I want to say to you, do not give up the ship, that nothing is impossible with God, and know that, and know that you are never alone. You have my prayers, you have the prayers of the Goretti group, and more importantly, you have the prayers of all of the church in heaven, all of the saints who are just waiting and ready to lend support to you at any moment. You are never alone. And I wanted to take a moment for all of us, you know, over the last years, in 2020 has been very difficult for all of us. And I wanted to read this passage from Hebrews. It's Hebrews 10:23 to 25. And it reads, "Let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as it is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as we see the day drawing near." In Goretti group, I would like to begin inviting us to meet more, have more of us join together throughout the year in 2021. The New York chapter is meeting on First Fridays, and God willing, we'll continue to do that. We also hope to rejuvenate the Bay Area chapter, who has lost their leader to the seminary, which is a good thing. But we hope to rejuvenate that. And then here in the San Diego area, we will begin to meet on the weekends for Goretti gatherings, and so stay tuned for that in 2021. I will also be leading starting the first Monday in Lent. I'll start leading some formation encouragement circles that are focused on the spirituality of Saint Maria Goretti, and what essentially that looks like is following similar pathways, similar loves to the person of Saint Maria Goretti, who was simple. She was steadfast in her duties. She was hardworking. She was optimistic amidst hardships and trials, and she was forgiving and compassionate. But she was also a defender of the truth. And she was also a defender of purity, battling purity within herself and within culture. So I wanted to offer that to you, that you can look forward to. We hope that you will join us, but regardless of what your affiliation is and your participation in Goretti group events, I hope that this year, 2021, will be one that will bring you peace, that will bring you joy amidst the storms at sea and amidst the battles that come your way. So again, do not give up the ship. I pray to Mary, Star of the Sea, that she will guide you to the shores of her Son, where you will experience a deep joy and a deep peace. Let's work together to build the kingdom of love in 2021. God bless you.